Ella Harper had always believed in forever. She was the kind of girl who wrote her dreams in the margins of her notebooks, who believed that love, true love, was strong enough to survive anything. And for a long time, it seemed she had found it in Noah Clarke, the boy who once gave her his hoodie during a summer storm and promised never to leave. They met in college in Austin, Texas, two souls drawn together by the quiet gravity of familiarity and shared ambition. She studied literature. He was on his way to becoming a civil engineer. They dreamed together, built futures in the clouds, whispered about a wedding under old oak trees. But dreams, no matter how sweet, are still vulnerable to the sharp blade of reality. It happened on a rainy Thursday. Ella was late coming home from work and surprised Noah with dinner and tickets to a jazz concert. What she didn't expect was to walk in on him holding another woman in the arms that once held her like she was the only one in the world. The world fractured. Noah begged. He said it was a mistake, that it didn't mean anything. But betrayal has a taste, bitter and lingering. Ella, heart splintered into pieces too small to gather, left. She moved to Denver. Started over. Taught high school English, spent weekends hiking, trying to stitch together a life that didn't include him. She dated a little. Smiled when she had to. But her heart was careful now, wary of fairy tales. 3 years passed. And then one October morning, in the quiet of a bookstore cafe, she looked up from a poetry collection and saw him. Noah. He looked older. Not in years, but in the kind of sorrow that doesn't always show on the skin. He walked over slowly, like he wasn't sure if she'd bolt or punch him. Ella, he said, voice softer than she remembered. Her chest tightened. Noah. He told her he was visiting Denver for a work project. That he hadn't stopped thinking about her. That what happened was the worst mistake of his life. She wanted to be angry. She was angry. But beneath the fire, there was still the ache of love that never truly vanished. They met for coffee. Then dinner. They talked like people trying to trace the edges of what they used to be. He didn't ask for forgiveness. Not immediately. He simply listened, to her pain, to her silences, to the new life she had built without him. And Ella, cautious but curious, let herself remember. He told her the truth. That the woman meant nothing. That he had been overwhelmed, scared of their future, afraid of not being enough. It wasn't an excuse, he knew that. It was cowardice. And he'd paid for it every day since. They walked along the lake one evening, leaves crunching beneath their feet. I don't expect anything, Noah said, stopping to look at her. But if I could take it back, I would. 1,000 times. You were my home, Ella. And I burned it down. She stared at the water. And what if I can't forget? You don't have to, he said. I just hope, one day, you'll let me try to build something new with you. Even if it looks different. It didn't happen quickly. Trust is a fragile thing, slow to grow and easy to crush. But slowly, Ella let him back in. Not because she forgot the pain, but because love, real love, isn't about perfection. It's about choosing someone even after they've broken your heart, when they show they're willing to pick up every piece with you. A year later, under those same oak trees they once dreamed about, they stood hand in hand. No fairy tales. Just two people, a little older, a little wiser, choosing each other again, not because they had to, but because they still wanted to. Healing wasn't a straight road. Some days were full of soft laughter and rediscovered joy. Others were steeped in silence, where old wounds throbbed like fresh bruises. Ella found herself caught between the woman who had once been shattered and the one who wanted to believe again. They took it slow. Noah never pushed. He never asked her to forget. Instead, he showed up in ways she didn't expect, walking her dog during snowstorms, reading her favorite poetry so he could understand what moved her, and learning how to cook her mother's chicken pot pie, even if he'd burned it 3 times. One evening in January, while snow fell in soft waves outside her window, he brought over a box of old memories. Inside were concert tickets, Polaroids, a playlist on a USB stick labeled, "For Ella, Forever." She hesitated before plugging it into her laptop, but when the music played, It was like the past whispering through the speakers. Their first dance. Their road trip to California. That lazy Sunday morning with pancakes and jazz. Tears welled in her eyes, uninvited but honest. "You kept all this?" she whispered. "I couldn't let go," he said. "Even when you were gone. Especially then." And slowly, piece by piece, her heart began to soften. A fresh start. Spring came early that year. The air was lighter. The skies stayed blue a little longer. Ella began to invite Noah into the corners of her life she had kept locked for so long. They visited her father's cabin in Estes Park, the one she hadn't returned to since the breakup. They cooked over a fire, hiked through evergreens, and lay on the dock watching stars scatter across the sky. "I miss this place," Noah murmured, fingers brushing hers. "I missed it too," she said. "But I was afraid it would still feel like us." "And now?" She turned to him. "Now it still does. But it doesn't hurt like before." They didn't say the word love again for months. But it was in the way he kissed her forehead after long days. In how she reached for his hand during thunder. In the way they paused movies just to talk. Trust bloomed slowly, like wildflowers after frost. The test of time. Life, of course, tested them. Noah was offered a job back in Austin. A promotion. A big one. When he told her over dinner, her fork stopped halfway to her mouth. "I'd understand if you stayed," she said quietly. "You belong there." He reached across the table, taking her hand. "I used to think so. But it's not the city that matters. It's who I'm building a life with." "And that's you?" She blinked back tears. "You'd give that up for me?" "I'm not giving up anything. I'm choosing us. Finally, fully." So he stayed. Found a smaller firm in Denver. Took a pay cut. Moved into a cozy apartment 2 blocks from hers. And with every decision, he proved something more valuable than words. He had changed. The proposal, again. It wasn't grand this time. There were no string quartets. No hidden photographers. Just a quiet afternoon in May, a walk through the botanical gardens, and the two of them standing beneath blooming cherry blossoms. Noah knelt. Not in desperation, but in reverence. "I don't want to rewrite our past," he said. "It made us who we are. But I want to build a future, with laughter, with mistakes, with forgiveness. Will you marry me, Ella?" She looked down at him, at the man who once broke her and spent years learning how to help her heal. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I will." This time, there were no doubts. A different kind of wedding. They didn't invite hundreds of guests. Just close friends. Her parents. His brother. A little garden near the mountains, chairs wrapped in linen, candles flickering against sunset skies. Ella walked down the aisle barefoot, her dress simple, her heart full. They wrote their own vows. "I don't promise perfection," Noah said, voice trembling. "But I promise honesty. Kindness. And to never stop earning your trust." "I don't promise to forget," Ella replied. "But I promise to remember why we chose each other again. And to love you, even when it's hard." They kissed not like a fairy tale ending, but like a real beginning. 1 year later. The sun poured through their kitchen window as Ella stirred coffee. Noah walked in, sleepy, hair tousled, arms wrapping around her waist. "I dreamed we had twins," he mumbled. "God help us." She laughed. They were still learning. Still building. Still healing. But love, as they now knew, wasn't made of perfect moments. It was built from late-night talks, small kindnesses, forgiven mistakes, and the quiet courage to try again. Cherry blossom final thought. Sometimes love isn't about never falling apart. It's about who's still standing beside you when you put the pieces back together.